send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my joy over the mountains. I send my joy over the sea. I send my joy into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my power over the mountains. I send my power over the sea. I send my power into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my peace over the mountains. I send that peace over the sea. I send peace into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my power over the mountains. I send my power over the sea. I send my power into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my love over the mountains. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me. And it returns to me. And it returns to me. And it returns to me.
I invite you to gently close your eyes and take in a deep, deep healing breath, a sacred and holy breath, as we journey together into our heart of hearts. I call forth the infilling of the divine light of the Christ. I call forth a perfect circle of light and love to surround us. I call forth the holy healing breath of God to breathe within us. And I call forth the power of the Holy Spirit to move through us now, to move the energy into our hearts, to bathe our hearts in the power of love. Imagine that love energy in the form of a lavender healing light that is moving through you, touching each and every cell, renewing, restoring, and regenerating. As it flows through you like a river of healing light, taking you into a deep, deep rest. Imagine yourself now floating run this river of healing light into your heart of hearts. To a beautiful sanctuary where all is calm and peaceful in your life. Where you can go anytime you wish to be in complete oneness with all that is. Drifting deeper and deeper now into your heart of hearts. And you come upon a circle of healing angels within your heart. They welcome you into your circle. And as you step into the circle, surrounded by all these magnificent beings, you notice a beautiful light that is in the form of an infinity symbol within your circle. And you step into one side of the infinity circle. And the angels ask you to invite the sage, the mighty and wonderful sage, the mystic of your heart, to step into the other side of the infinity symbol. And the angels invite you to converse with your sage, with that wise one that lives in your heart, that is connected to the divine and to the entire universe, to the knowing of all that is. And your sage welcomes you into this conversation. You can feel the energy of the angels all around you, blessing and supporting you. And getting to know this holy aspect of yourself. This creative, loving, all-knowing mystic that lives within you. Lightly stroke your hair, wrap their wings around you and hold you dearly, letting you know that they are with you always. And they encourage you to be consciously aware of this holy aspect of yourself. They encourage you to commune with this part of your being. Listen to the wisdom of the sage and allow yourself to be guided by this holy aspect of yourself. And so you converse with your sage. You allow the wisdom of the ages to come through your sage. Bless you, to fill you with great knowledge and understanding. Your sage tells you that no matter what the question is, love is always the answer. Your sage touches your head and your heart, anointing you in spirit, bringing your mind and spirit into perfect harmony, perfect flow, perfect wisdom. And one by one, each angel greets you and whispers words of blessing into your ears. Tells you that you are precious and loved, that your presence on this planet makes such a powerful difference, and that they are always with you every step of the way. This comforts you. you remember that your presence is powerful, that you are indeed divine, and that within you resides the wisdom of the ages. You take a deep, deep God breath and you breathe this in now, filling your heart, your cells, with this grand and wondrous wisdom. And you make an agreement with yourself that from this moment on, you will embrace the mystic of your heart, the great sage. You will open your beingness to this grand and wondrous creativity that wants to express through you. You can feel an elation as the angels hold you and celebrate who you are as they did the day that you were born. And you know that all is well on your journey. You give great thanks to your sage. You take the hands of the angels. You step out of the circle now. And you walk back along the path with the holy ones. Feeling filled with love and inspiration. Knowing that that Holy One is always there within you to guide you and bless you. And that all is well on your journey. And as you walk back along your path, all of nature bows at your feet to honor who you are on your journey. And this elates you. This excites you about your life. In that energy now, walking back into this room at peace. Slowly begin to open your eyes. And as you do, take note of how you're feeling. Take note of the energy that is moving through you and around you. Take note that that Holy One that lives within you is always there for you. And all is well. Take another deep, deep God breath and slowly open your eyes. Take note of how you're feeling. Take note that this room is filled with the heavenly presence. And that presence is always with you every step of the way on your journey. May God bless you. And may you be at peace. Amen. Okay, by a show of hands, how many of you consider yourself to be a mystic? Raise your hand. Okay. For any of you that might doubt, let's talk a little bit about what a mystic is. A mystic is, it's an aspect of self that lives in our hearts. It is the God connector, the universal connector, the wise one, the creative one. So we're going to do a little bit of logic. Little Logic 101. So I'm going to put on my professor hat and I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you, by a show of hands, have a heart? Raise your hand. Oh, good. No heartless people in here. That's good. Okay. Now, if you have a heart, this is logic. If you have a heart, and the heart is the home of the mystic, and the mystic is the universal connector, the creative one, the wise one, then that means that all of you have a mystic living within you. And if that's true, then you also have all the aspects of a mystic living within you. All we have to do is one thing: bring our conscious awareness to that belief. The great wisdom of the ages is accessible. All we have to do is go right here and talk to the sage, the wise one that lives here. Because the wise one is connected with all that is. And the information is easy to come by when we go here. Now, when we're up here in our worried, fearful thoughts, that certainly blocks us. That keeps us from being connected. But when we move to this place within us, absolutely all things are possible. And our sage, our wise one, our mystic can guide us on our path. And our mystic can be playful, can be creative, can be absolutely amazingly wise, and has the answers to whatever our questions are. We don't have to go out there, because it is right here. When I was really young, I grew up in a family of artists. My mother was an artist and a photographer professional. My brother was an artist. And I was always inhibited. I really wanted to be able to be really creative art-wise, but I just didn't have their talent. And I talked to myself all the time. And I told myself, I can't do what they can do. They're much better than me. I can't even draw. And so I inhibited, I stopped myself. I would not allow myself to do anything like that. And about the early 80s, I was living in Daytona Beach, Florida. And I was thinking to myself, gosh, I want to express myself in some way through art. And I just don't have the talent. And a little voice spoke to me and said, this is what it said. It said, get a t-shirt, get some paint, and just splash whatever you want. Do whatever you want with that on the shirt. And I did. I did it, just for the heck of it. And I got different instruments, including a toothbrush, and I started making these really wild designs on these t-shirts. And about that time, splash art started becoming popular. So I started doing all these designs and making these things with toothbrushes, and including like images of lightning. And a couple of people saw these t-shirts and they said, that's really cool. And they started asking me to do that for them. And so I started doing that on t-shirts. And then I progressed. Remember a long time ago, about say 70s and 80s, when women were wearing cotton dresses? No. Jersey dresses, right. And a couple of people asked me to do something on that. And I started doing them on that. And this woman that I know is a friend from New York. She said, well, let me take some of those to New York. I bet you they'll love them. And I did, and they started buying them. And I thought, this is really cool. And then I moved to California. And that same voice said, well, if you can do this, and people like this, why don't you do something with angels? Because I have a big thing. I have a great affinity and love for angels. And so I decided, oh, what the heck? And so I started painting these images. There's kind of Native American, wild-looking, abstract images of angels. And people said, God, that's really different. I've never seen anything quite like that. And they said, well, why don't you make me one? So I started doing that. And then I started selling t-shirts doing that, and sweatshirts. And then when Margaret and I got together, she said, well, if you can do this, why don't you do something on canvas? And I said, no, I can't take it that far. Good Lord, I'm not an artist. I can splash things and make it look kind of cool, but I'm not an artist. And we went up to Mount Shasta, which is a very mystical place in Northern California. And that voice spoke to me. By this time, I was beginning to really listen to this voice, beginning to realize that this was the sage in my heart that was guiding me. And one time we were going to go on a hike, and I said, you know what, just for the heck of it, I'm going to bring a canvas, and I'm going to paint something on Mount Chester. And I started painting angels on canvases. And I'm here to tell you, from going to a child that felt very inhibited about painting because of I couldn't compare to my mother and my brother. To first flash art, then painting angels on canvases. And I'm here to tell you that the divine, the mystic in me, has taken me all the way now. From that child that was really inhibited to I'm actually going to be teaching a class in painting angels. This is what happens when we listen to that mystic, that sage within our heart. That sage never will lead us astray. It is the divine connection, the all that is. And it is holy and it is powerful. I'm going to tell you another story about listening to that divine wisdom. This was when I was in Vietnam. I spent a year in Vietnam at 19 years old. Didn't want to be there, but I got sent there anyway during the 68 Tet Offensive, the hardest time of the whole war. And I was stationed in Da Nang at the radio communications station there, which was a target. It was a target that they were trying to overrun during the 68 Tet Offensive. And one day, it was at night actually, one night, I was in the communication station, and I was standing up talking to a guy that was sitting down here. And I was saying something to him, and he couldn't hear me. And I kept talking, and all of a sudden, he didn't say it, but my inner voice spoke to me and said, "Listen closer." And I went down like this to listen closer. And a sniper shot through the aluminum wall with an AK-47 round, and it touched my hair as I went down. Had I not gone down, it would have blown my head off. That sage, that mystic saved my life in that moment. But I participated in the saving by listening and taking action. And that is the key to the interaction with the mystic of our heart. Not only to listen, which is the divine feminine aspect of self in harmony, but then to take what you learn from the mystic in the divine masculine aspect of the heart into action. Do something with the information. And know that that mystic, that sage, does not lead us astray. This is really important. That mystic can open up our creativity, it can open up our wisdom, it can open up our self-confidence. There's no limits. And so every day, I call on that mystic. I call on divine spirit in my heart. And I ask for guidance. I call on the angels to be with me. Every time I come into a church, I ask the angels to prepare the way for a harmonious, sweet, loving, inspirational experience. And I think that divine mystic is knocking on our door. I think that divine mystic wants us to know, in the midst of all the craziness that's going on out there, that we are divine. We are made in the perfect image of divine, and we are incredible expressions of love and creativity and wonder. And all we got to do is listen. All we got to do is listen. Because we have mystical experiences all the time. All the time. To that aspect of self, it's a natural, everyday occurrence to have a miracle. That's what's natural. And it's no matter what's going on out there. if we connect with that holy aspect of self, all things are possible. All things are possible. Some of you know a former member of our church, Kit Laker. About 4 or 5 years ago, our beloved gypsy, our wolf hybrid that we had for over 16 years, passed away. And we were absolutely madly in love with this incredible being. She was 2/3 timber wolf and 1/3 Siberian husky, and she was with us for over 16 years. And she was an absolute incredible being. And she passed away. And we were crestfallen. We were devastated by that. And about an hour after she passed away, a kid came over to our house, and we were all sitting in the living room, and we were talking about it. And I was just bawling. I was just couldn't control the tears coming out. And we were talking, and all of a sudden we heard this whooshing sound come through the chimney. It was really loud. We kind of looked at each other and said, "What is that?"
Want me to demonstrate?
Yes, did.
Okay. It sounds like this.
She's my sound effect. And it happened again.
Do it again.
This time it sounded like, oh! And I looked at Kit and I said, "That sounds like howling." And that morning before she passed, Margaret and I embraced her and we started howling with her, because that was one of her favorite things. But she couldn't howl. She could not howl before she passed. So what happened is when she did pass, she howled so loudly that it literally resounded through the chimney. It had never happened before, and it has never happened since. And it was her way of saying goodbye to us. And she was in absolute ecstasy because she could howl again, and she was free from all that she was dealing with at 16 years old. And she wanted to let us know because she knew how sad and upset we were. And it was the mystic within her that communicated with us, and we got it. Divine has many, many, many abstract, interesting ways to communicate. If we are connected right here with that great sage, we can receive that communication. Now, what keeps us from doing that? Our ego, our fearful, our survival part of us. And so what do we do to stay here? I'm going to teach you something that you can do right now. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And take a deep breath. And I want you to bring up an image of something in your life that's been a little difficult for you. And just go into that. Feel what that feels like. Look at it. And take note of your beingness, your body. How it reacts to just thinking about this difficulty. Just take note of it. Now take a deep breath. And I want you to image yourself in that difficulty being held and comforted by angels. And just let the angels comfort you. Now, we're going to call forth the Christ energy. I call forth the infilling of the divine light of the Christ. I call forth the holy healing breath of God to breathe within me. And I call forth the power of the Holy Spirit to move through me now, to move the energy out of my head into my heart, to bathe my heart sage, the wise mystic. And I invite the mystic now, the Holy One in your heart, to give you some knowing, some wisdom of what this circumstance was all about. What you were to learn from it, how you can move forward from it, what message it might be bringing you. For only the wise one can give you the truth of this. And let that wise one speak to you now. Let it give you some guidance, where there's no judgment on the experience at all. There's only wisdom and holiness. You know that the angels are all around you, supporting you in this. And that all is well. All is well. It was just an experience, a messenger bringing you a message. It wasn't about hurting you. It just wants you to understand the message. And the great mystic, the sage of your heart, does understand that message. And you have access to this holy aspect of self whenever you need it, whenever you want it. And it can eliminate difficulty, it can eliminate fear and survival energy, and create peace and harmony. And now take note, in the presence of the great mystic, how you're feeling now. How is your body reacting to this compared to the reaction to the difficulty? For when we are at peace and things are flowing, it's so much easier to understand the messenger and glean the message. That messenger lives within your heart and is all knowing, all loving. Breathe. Embrace your messenger. Let your messenger guide you. You are so loved, so precious. All is well. You may get the full knowing now. It may come to you in the days to come. Just allow it to come. It will. Now take a deep breath and thank the sage of your heart. And slowly open your eyes, and as you do, take note of how you're feeling. Take note of the difference that you may be feeling between experiencing through the ego and experiencing through the divine messenger, the divine mystic. Now, I'm going to show you an image that a friend of ours did. I want you to look at this. This is a dear friend of ours. His name is Tay Zenz. He's an artist from Taos, New Mexico. And on Christmas Eve, he was with a group of people, and they did a bonfire. Oops. And this image came through.
Oh,
Now tell me that isn't a mystical image. What does that look like to you? A what? Exactly. Exactly. And he saw that image in the fire and took that picture. Now tell me that isn't mystical. Amazing. And he sent that to us. I love that. I absolutely love that. And it looks almost like she's holding a baby. Isn't that amazing? Now, in just a moment, I'm going to show you some other images. My wife and I, right after Christmas, went down to see our grandkids, Cece and Dominic. Cece's 10, Dominic's 7. And Cece is this amazingly brilliant child, and
All of our grandchildren are right.
And she, I'm not sure if she's fully aware of this yet, but she absolutely connected with her mystical self in doing these images on the computer. She completely taught herself how to do this on her own, and she created these images. So I wanted to show them to you. There's about 4 or 5 of them. Isn't that amazing? It's a dragon. At 10 years old, my guess is that she went into that magical place within her, and this is what came through. And she just allowed it to happen. Every one of us have that creative aspect of self. It lives right here. And some of us, like me, as a child, really was inhibited about letting that out because I compared myself to someone else. None of you have ever done that. But we don't have to do that. We are unique within ourselves. Everyone's mystic is unique unto them. All we have to do is connect with that part of us and let it come through. Let yourself be guided. Let your creativity come through. Let your brilliance come through. Let your love come through. Embrace the messenger when it comes our way. Don't fight it. Don't run from it. Don't be afraid of it. It's just bringing us a message. And this aspect of self can glean the wisdom of that message. The ego will never do that. The divine is knocking on our door saying, are we willing to be the mystic? Are we willing? And all we got to do is say yes. And listen to the wisdom and take action. This afternoon from 1:30 to 4:30, Margaret and I, that's what we're going to do with you. We're going to go into that mystical sage within your heart and open it up. Open up the creativity. Experience healing. Experience amazing shifts. Letting that divine self fully express. And I know divine is knocking on our door saying this is the next step. We can no longer inhibit, hold back that part of ourselves. Because the world is calling for us. And all we got to do is say yes. And that's what we're going to do 1:30 to 4:30 right here. So pray about being a part of that. Let's all play and have a mystical experience together. Thank you. God bless you.
Let's all go, It is a wonderful and sacred thing when we find the communities that welcome us to express the fullness of who we are. And part of what I've noticed through my years, many of you know that I started my ministry in healing ministry in 1979. And many of us have been in the healing ministry. One of the things I've noticed through the years is that more and more of us are waking up to this powerful awareness that the healer, the mystic, the visionary, all of that wondrous, miraculous energy of who we are, that lives within us, each one of us. And we are all meant to be the healers, the teachers, the visionaries, the mystics. Even when we're chopping wood and carrying water, we do it as the mystics, as the visionaries, even as our hip replacement surgeries are healing. Even as we're getting laws changed to create more kindness in the world, even as our human family is struggling to remember who we are, some of us are picking up guns and some of us are laying down guns. We continually get invited to remember that we are the mystic. It's us. We're the ones that we've been looking for and yearning for. It's us. It's always been us.
Yay.
That's part of what we're going to be looking at deeply this afternoon. I want to invite you now to remember that this is your church community. Whoever is in spiritual leadership through the years, this church has 27 years of being on the Grand Strand, and we are a powerful energy. And there have been many people who've been a part of creating the atmosphere of this place and this experience that we call unity. We give thanks for them. We give thanks for the continual connection. People find their way here, and they serve in many ways. They serve in spiritual leadership, on the board, on the music team, the cleaning team, the youth program, the sound, the video. There's so many ways to serve here. Because whose church is it?
Mine.
It's yours. It's ours. It's always. It's our community, our center of awakening and healing. One of the ways we participate is through our tithes and offerings. We still have not been able to successfully call the power company and say, we're praying for you. Is that good? They still want the green energy. We welcome all the ways that you want to participate, including your tithes and offerings. Our board president, Kate Richter, and one of our board members, Cynthia Swanson, they have invited you for this season to enter into a time of tithing, a time of generating financial blessings for this community. That blue card is in the back of some of your chairs. And they've also included envelopes for us to use when you want to do a cash donation. Make sure you put your name on there, because at the end of the year you get a report for your taxes. So, we are going to receive our offering, and we have an offering blessing and a hand mudra to go with it. We lift our hands and we say, I am light flowing through me, blessing these gifts to radiate peace. Take a deep breath on me. That can mean your green energy, it can mean your energy of service, the ways you volunteer. So we're going to do it one more time. Holding your tithes, offerings, and your good energy within your heart and your hands. I am light, flowing through me, blessing these gifts and radiate peace. So it is. And now we have a song that just might lift you higher as the offering plates are going around.
Here we go.
Before
Beloveds who have shown up for you today. We show up for each other to lift each other higher and higher. This is a holy thing. This is one of the holy ceremonies we do here every Sunday, is lift one another higher and higher. So I want us to take a deep breath. And right now remember all those that we are holding in our hearts of prayer, not the least of which is our beloved Charlene and her beautiful four-legged Chloe. And let's put the names out into the circle now of those that we are holding in a consciousness of prayer. Margaret. Edna. Charlotte. Mike. We lift one another higher and higher. We hold these beloveds in our hearts of prayer, knowing our own wholeness and seeing their wholeness, even in the midst of things changing, physicality changing, our beloveds transitioning out of physical bodies, our community in the seen and the unseen. We're always still remaining connected. We bless these beloveds whose names have been spoken and unspoken. We bless our human family, our global family, all world leaders, community leaders, people meeting in synagogues and mosques and temples and villages and drum circles and dance circles. We give thanks for the human family yearning and reaching for the awakening, yearning and reaching for that mystical consciousness, the transcendent consciousness that heals, renews, transforms our world. We give thanks. And so it is, and so let it be. Namaste. If you want to ask questions about the workshop, David and I will be here available for that. The little flyers on your chairs. It's a love offering basis. Please come. Feel welcome to come and be here with us at 1:30. Also, we want to remind you that next Sunday is Third Sunday Connect the Dots. Spread the word on that. People are enjoying it. So we now say our prayer for protection for us and for all those we're holding in our hearts together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Now we end with our peace song. We sing it like a prayer.
God as creator. saying.